Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I want to put aside any disagreements about harvest crafting changes and return to a series I've been putting out where I've been talking about in-game unique items, why they're good, and how to get them. Today, I want to talk about Duskdawn. Now, unfortunate caveat that needs to be made at the start of this video, Duskdawn is nearly impossible to get your hands on in solo self-found. So, unfortunately, unless you're someone that plays an enormous amount, you're probably not going to get the requisite pieces that you need in order to make a Duskdawn. And the reason for that is that Duskdawn does not drop. Duskdawn comes from a vendor recipe rather than coming from from monster drops. And as a result, you need to get lucky not once but twice in order to get it. What is that vendor recipe, you might be asking? Go to a vendor and sell 3 specific items to them. Light of Lunaris, this shield. You want to sell a Shade of Solaris, this wand, and an Orb of Fusing. And then you'll receive back a unidentified Maelstrom staff, which is Duskdawn. Very important. Don't use a corrupted item. The vendor recipe doesn't work if one or both of the inputs is corrupted. You will just end up feeling sad for yourself. So make sure that you don't buy a corrupted Shade of Solaris or a corrupted Light of Lunaris in a trade league. And also don't try to shoot for these with the various divination cards that grant corrupted uniques, because it won't help you. Okay, so the mods on Duskdawn. Why would you consider using this item? Firstly, it has a lot of attack block. 35% total attack block, and it has some synergies with that as well. Now, there is a node on the passive tree called Glancing Blows that I will just quickly grab up to demonstrate for you. And Glancing Blows is over here, and it causes your chance to block attack damage to be doubled, amongst other things. It also reduces how good block is, but a block that provides 65% of damage is still considered as a block for purposes of have you blocked something recently or what's your actual block chance. And so, if you allocate Glancing Blows on the passive tree, you're going to have 70% chance to block attack damage just from this staff alone. And you can get more from other sources, although there is a soft cap of 75% that's hard to increase past. So keep that in mind. 70% chance to block attack damage with Duskdawn, as long as you have Glancing Blows. Next up, we have 60 to 80% increased critical strike chance for spells. So this one has a roll of 63, but it's a quite wide range. Thirdly, we have gained 10 to 20% of elemental damage added as extra chaos damage. This is a really powerful mod. I've already talked in the past about how powerful various elemental conversion can be, especially when I discussed the Eternity Shroud. Now, Duskdawn doesn't really fit on an Eternity Shroud build, but all of the sorts of shenanigans that you can use to make Eternity Shroud scale better also can be done to lesser effectiveness with Duskdawn. So do keep that in mind as an option, especially if you get one that has a 20% roll there. And ultimately, if you're going to be using Duskdawn, you may end up using Duskdawn for the entire league, in which case it's worth divining it until you get at least a 19% in that roll. However, now we have the massive things. The critical strike multiplier. This is the reason you use Duskdawn. So, 60% critical strike multiplier if you've dealt a non-critical strike recently. What this is telling you to do is don't try to stack crit to the extent that you're critting 100% of the time. That tends to require Bottled Faith and high-end endgame items anyway. What you want to do is stack enough critical strike that you're critting between 70 and 90% of the time, and that's a sweet spot. You'll get the occasional non-crit, enough to keep that 60% crit multi active, but most of your skills will benefit from most of your spells will benefit from it because they're critical strikes themselves. And then you have the 1% to crit multi per 1% chance to block attack damage. We're talking before about how this can give you 70% attack block chance just by virtue of using Glancing Blows, and you can get it to 75% with more investment. So those two lines alone provide 130% crit multi. Crit multiplier is one of the most powerful stats in the game, and Duskdawn is probably the most you can get on a single piece of item, outside some extreme high-end builds using the unique helmet Fractal Thoughts. Lastly, we have just a very, very, very powerful mod. 127% increased spell damage, and that's actually rolls in a range of 120 to 150%. If you've dealt a crit recently. So again, you're wanting to deal mostly crits, but with the occasional non-crit. If you're able to do that, Duskdawn can be used with pretty much any any spell skill that is dealing elemental damage, and it will provide you with a lot of damage. You want your critical strike chance in the 70 to 90% range, maybe even a little higher than 90 is okay. But if you start pushing past 93, 94%, then you probably want to unspec some critical strike chance somewhere on your build because you'll do more damage without it. So, where do you get Duskdawn? As we said, it's from a vendor SP, Light of Lunaris, plus a Shade of Solaris, neither of them corrupted, plus a Fusing Orb. And lastly, you'll notice I've got a couple of heist blueprints in my inventory here. The reason I've got them there is because there is a replica version of Duskdawn. Now, the Replica Duskdawn is interesting. It is almost exactly the same item. The critical strike chance for spells is removed, and it is replaced with critical strike to attacks with this weapon, 40 to 50%. This is very situational. It is extremely powerful when it's good, but for most builds it's not. Normally you want to use Duskdawn rather than Replica Duskdawn, and that's a good thing because the Replica Duskdawn is extremely rare and extremely expensive. But on the builds where Replica Duskdawn is good, it is absolutely the best in-slot item for those builds. So I thought I'd mention that. If you're interested in getting yourself a Replica Duskdawn, it's a very rare drop in laboratory blueprints and prohibited library blueprints. And if you get it in a trade league, you can trade it for a lot. At the time that I'm recording this video, it's in the 35 to 40 Exalt range for the replica, whereas the regular Duskdawn, you can pick up the component pieces for well under half an Exalt. Anyways, have you got any comments or questions, fire away below. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you have a good one.